This is KBS World Radio, the overseas service of the Korean Broadcasting System, coming to you from Seoul, the capital of the Republic of Korea. We now begin today's English broadcast on KBS World Radio. From Seoul, Korea, KBS World Radio News starts right now. On today's broadcast, North Korea unveils new missiles at a massive military parade marking the 105th birthday of its founding leader, Kim Il-sung. The United States adopts a new North Korea policy of maximum pressure and engagement. And candidate registration begins for the May 9th presidential election. This is KBS World Radio News. I'm Bruce Harrison. North Korea staged a massive military parade in Pyongyang on Saturday to mark the 105th birthday anniversary of its late founder, Kim Il-sung, a holiday known as the Day of the Sun. Leader Kim Jong-un arrived at Kim Il-sung Square shortly after and inspected rows of soldiers from the Army, Navy, Air Force, and other military units standing at the square. Ranking Workers' Party official Chae Ryong-hae delivered congratulatory remarks, saying that North Korea is ready for war if the U.S. wages a reckless provocation. Chae said the North's revolutionary forces will immediately engage in annihilating strikes and respond to a full-scale war with an all-out war and to nuclear attacks with nuclear strikes. During the parade, North Korea unveiled for the first time what is presumed to be a new intercontinental ballistic missile. A South Korean military source said the new missile mounted on a wheeled vehicle seems to be longer than the existing KN-08 or KN-14 missiles. Also showcased at the parade were an array of strategic weapons, including KN-08 missiles, the Pukguksong submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and the Pukguksong-2, an SLBM modified for ground launches. The Trump administration is reported to have established its North Korea policy focused on maximum pressure and engagement in resolving the North's nuclear issue. Based on this principle and in cooperation with China, the U.S. government is expected to further strengthen sanctions and pressure on the North, which continues nuclear tests and missile provocations. The Associated Press on Friday cited an unidentified U.S. official as saying the North Korea strategy was finalized after a 2-month review. The AP said advisors to Trump weighed a range of ideas of how to get North Korea to abandon its nuclear program, including military options, and trying to overthrow the isolated communist dictatorship's leadership. The report said they even looked at the notion of accepting North Korea as a nuclear state, but in the end, they sent a lot of policy that appears to represent continuity. The officials who asked for anonymity said the administration's emphasis for now will be on increasing pressure on Pyongyang with the help of China. A senior U.S. administration official says Washington has been assessing military options on North Korea ahead of Vice President Mike Pence's visit to South Korea. The official said Pence will discuss those options with U.S. Forces Korea Commander General Vincent Brooks during his 3-day stay from Sunday. Pence will meet acting South Korean President Hwang Kyo-ahn and National Assembly Speaker Chung Se-kyun as well. The official said regarding security, Pence will stress Seoul is the linchpin of peace and prosperity, and President Donald Trump takes national security as a top priority. The official said Pence's message will also be about Washington's ironclad commitment to all its allies in the Asia-Pacific, adding the U.S. takes their defense very seriously. Chinese state media say its flagship carrier Air China will temporarily halt flights between Beijing and Pyongyang from Monday. China's CCTV said flights on this route have often been canceled due to a lack of passengers, but it didn't give a specific reason for the temporary suspension. It's unclear when the suspension will be lifted. A Seoul-based news agency said the move is considered an attempt to prevent North Korea from waging more provocations amid already high tensions on the Korean peninsula.
You're now listening to the news from KBS World Radio's News Center in Seoul, Korea.
Candidate registration for the special presidential election on May 9th began Saturday. People's Party presidential hopeful Ahn Chol-soo visited the National Election Commission in Gwacheon, Gyeonggi Province and registered. He said he'll win for the Korean public by any means. Justice parties, Shim Song-jung, Democratic parties Moon Jae-in and Liberty Korea parties Hong Jun-pyo had their aides register for them. Moon Jae-in, one of the two leaders in the polls along with Ahn, said in a statement the Republic of Korea has begun a new history, and he asked voters to help him realize a transfer in power. Conservative candidate Hong Jun-pyo said the upcoming election is a battle to defend a free South Korea. Hong stressed he should be elected for his strong views on national security. Yoo Sung-min of the splinter conservative Barun Party registered his candidacy later in the day. Following the two-day registration, the official campaign period will begin Monday and last through May 8th, the day before the election. The United States has kept South Korea on a list of countries closely monitored for its currency practices. On Friday, the U.S. Treasury Department issued its first half-term currency report under the Trump administration. Other major trade partners remain on the list, including Germany, Japan, Switzerland, and Taiwan. In breaking with a campaign promise, Trump did not designate China as a currency manipulator, but kept it on the watch list as well. Analysts say Trump flipped on that promise to enlist Beijing's help in dealing with North Korea. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal Wednesday, Trump said China has not been manipulating its currency for months and is not a currency manipulator. South Korean conglomerate Lotte Group projects it will take a massive financial hit over its cooperation in the deployment of a U.S. missile defense system. The company estimates it will lose more than 1 trillion won, or $875 million in sales in the first half of this year because of China's opposition to the system known as THAAD. Lotte estimated it lost 250 billion won in sales in March alone. The March loss factors in sales at Lotte Mart stores in China, exports to China by Lotte Food affiliates, and a drop in Lotte duty-free revenue affected by Beijing's ban on tour groups to South Korea. Of the 99 Lotte Mart stores across China, 87 have been forced to close by Chinese authorities or have voluntarily shut down in the face of boycott by Chinese consumers. Lotte agreed to provide a site in North Gyeongsang Province for the placement of the missile defense battery in a land swap deal with the Defense Ministry earlier this year. China fears the device's powerful radar will be used by the U.S. to spy on its own military. The Bank of Korea and local and global think tanks have modestly raised their growth outlooks on Korea for this year, raising expectations of economic recovery. Market pundits project first-quarter growth will be around 0.7 to 0.8% compared to 0.5% in the previous quarter. Reviving exports and increasing facility investment in the semiconductor and IT sectors are the main factors leading recovery momentum. And that's the news from KBS World Radio's News Center in Seoul. I'm Bruce Harrison.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Saturday Mailbag Show, KBS Listeners Lounge, coming to you from Seoul, the capital of South Korea.
It's Saturday, April 15th, 2017, and as always, we've got the latest listeners' letters, messages, and reports we receive from you coming right up.
So please stay tuned. I'm Lawrence Taylor.
And I'm Kim Ji-eun. We'll be right back. Now, as I'm sure many of our listeners had anticipated and already noticed by now, there's been some major changes here on KBS Listeners Lounge. We said goodbye to one member of our family last week, and now it's time to welcome in a new member. Hi, Lawrence.
Hi, Jian.
So say hello to our listeners.
Hello, everyone. I've heard a lot about this program, and I look forward to meeting and connecting with the listeners from all around the world.
Now, I know you're from the UK, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners noticed it in your accent as well. But we actually have a lot of longtime listeners there, too. So which part of England are you originally from? I mean, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, including where you're from?
Sure. Well, as you say, I'm from England. I was born in a beautiful town on the south coast. It's called Bournemouth. And I spent a few years working as a journalist in London before moving to Korea in 2013. I was working as an editor here before joining the KBS family.
Ah, so 2013, that means you've been here for a good 4 years now, right?
That's right, yeah.
So you started working at KBS on Monday this week, meaning you're close to completing your first full week here. So how did it go?
It went really well. I've enjoyed my time here so far. Some listeners may have already heard me on Seoul Calling this Tuesday and yesterday as well. And I'm really excited to be part of this team too.
I'm excited to have you here, too. I think you actually chose the best time to start working at KBS, too, because we're surrounded by beautiful cherry blossoms in full bloom left and right, front and back here.
Yeah, the weather's been really good, actually, here. It's been the perfect kind of weather for a fresh new start.
Well, you might like to know that the crowd in the entire Yeouido area thins out pretty soon as the cherry blossom season ends. So the commute and finding a seat at lunchtime will become easier soon, too.
Really? That's good to know.
All right, well, welcome to KBS Listeners Lounge once again, and I look forward to hosting this program and learning more about the world of shortwave radio with you because, of course, I am still learning myself.
Yeah, I must admit that shortwave radio is new territory for me, but it does seem very interesting, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
Sounds great. Now, before we jump into the letter and report of the week, although Emily and I had talked about this at some length last week, I just wanted to quickly wish our listeners a happy Bengali New Year one more time. Hope you are all enjoying a wonderful holiday. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with this week's letters and reports, so don't go away.
You're listening to KBS Listeners Lounge on KBS World Radio. Okay, it's now time for us to take a look at the listener letters and reception reports. As usual, we've received some lovely handwritten, typed up, and emailed comments, letters, and reception reports from you, our listeners. And we'll share some of those with you on this program.
We'll start with a monthly summary for the month of March by our monitor, Mohammed Shamim S. of India. He emails us his reception reports nearly every day and also sends us a nice summary at the end of each month. And the following is what he wrote us for the month of March. Korean Travelogue was excellent and educational, and Stuart Ho's Seoul Travel Tip Show was superb. And as for frequency 9.5 on 5 megahertz between 1600 and 1700 hours UTC, it was loud and clear in my area in March. Frequency 9.640 megahertz was good for reception from 16 to 1700 UTC in March as well. 9.880 megahertz was average for reception in my area on March 26th. There was strong jamming from China Radio International, but this frequency was excellent for reception during the testing period in March. As for frequency 7.275 megahertz from 1800 to 1900 hours UTC, it was average for reception from 1800 to 1830 hours UTC in March, but after 1830 hour UTC, the signal reception was good.
And Mohammed also has some suggestions for new programs. He wrote, please start a program about traditional Korean village life called Korean Kaleidoscope, and also one about Korean movies called K-Movie World. So thank you for your excellent suggestions there, Mohammed. Our producers have added them to the list of new programs for the next reshuffle. As for his latest report, Mohammed listened to us on 9.515 megahertz from 1600 to 1700 hours UTC on April 9th, and he rated the SINPO 4s across the board.
He used a Grundig YB80 receiver with a 20-meter long aerial antenna. Thank you very much, as always, Mohammed. Staying with 9.515 megahertz, listener Munir KP of the United Arab Emirates sent us an email after tuning in to us on the frequency on April 5th. He used a Texan PL660 radio, PLL synthesized receiver with synchronous detection with a long wire antenna and tuned in from 16:15 hours UTC. He rated the SINPO 45434 and noted that the signal was strong, but it suffered from continuous fading. He gave us some details of the programs he heard, including Seoul Calling, on which he heard about Korean Arbor Day. And Munir also sent us a video file and 2 audio files recorded while receiving our broadcast, giving us a good idea about the reception condition at the time. Now, personally, I thought the SINPO rating 45434 was a little bit generous. It was a little bit noisy, but thank you so much for your report and also all the files you sent us.
The next report is from listener Krista Brunstrom of Sweden, who I'm told is a dear friend of the program on KBS.
He is, indeed.
Krista wrote in his email that he tuned into KBS World Radio on 9.515 megahertz on April 6th from 1600 to 1615 hours UTC, and again from 1645 to 1700 hours UTC. He said that the reception was fair to good as it improved towards the end, and he gave it a SINPO rating of 24332 and 24333. He gave us some program details, and he wrote, I had pretty good reception this past Sunday when I enjoyed your Korean music program. The 2 Koreas have been very much in the news recently. Of course they have. The North for the missile tests and the South for the presidential problems. All of this is being widely reported in our media. Spring has arrived in Sweden, and I expect most trees to have leaves very shortly. We've had flowers in our parks and gardens for almost 2 months now. Kind regards, Krista. Well, I'm very glad that you were able to listen to our program there, Krista, and also that spring has finally come to Sweden. I'm sure you're enjoying the warmer weather over there.
Spring in Sweden sounds very picturesque in my head for some odd reason. Well, it's great to hear from you again, Krista. Thank you for your report, and we hope you're doing well. Staying in Europe, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our Italian monitor, Giorgio Rominen, who emailed us earlier this month to tell us that he was able to hear us on 9.515 megahertz from 1600 to 1700 hours UTC in the last week of March. He used an ICOM IC75 receiver with the Windham antenna and rated the SINPO 24332 for March 27th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. It appears that he was unable to locate our signal at 2200 hour UTC on 11.810 megahertz on the same week. But thank you very much for your report, as always, Giorgio.
Our UK monitor, Nick Sharp, obviously a fellow Brit, he said earlier this month that he now almost entirely relies on the Wink system to listen to KBS programs. But on April 11th, he was able to listen to us on 9.515 megahertz from 1600 to 1700 hours UTC. He rated the SINPO 35443, and he gave us some details of what he could hear. He said, it was a total surprise to hear you at this time as I am off work, with very good to good reception throughout the entire hour. This enabled me to listen to the whole program and not a small segment as I did last night on 7.275 megahertz. I could not hear you on 9.640 megahertz at this time.
Well, as for 7.275 megahertz you mentioned, it seems Nick was able to hear us for 5 minutes on the frequency on April 4th and again on April 10th. On the 10th, he had written, this may seem crazy, but I can get 5 minutes a day of great reception of KBS World Radio between 1825 and 1830 hours UTC on 7.275 megahertz. I was able to hear Mark Broom tonight talking about tourism in London. Then at just before 1830 UTC, the Voice of Vietnam signs on via a relay on 7.280 megahertz, and Radio China International signs on direct on 7.265 megahertz, which completely wipes out what was a SINPO rating of 45444. Can we find another frequency in the 41 meter band for this time slot of 1800 to 1900 hour UTC? Maybe going out of the official band would make a difference. Sadly, I see no future for 11.810 megahertz at 2200 hours UTC, as it just does not want to travel from Korea to Europe right now and seems to peak for a few days in earlier March. Now, first of all, we're very happy to hear that you could hear us on both 9.515 megahertz and on 7.275 megahertz, even though it was a very brief moment for the latter. The 7.275 megahertz broadcast is indeed targeting Europe, but we have actually been getting some good reports on it from our listeners on the Indian subcontinent recently as well. So I'm hopeful that maybe we could make a case for a new frequency in the 41 meter band, like you said, to our technical team for the B17 season. Now, it does seem quite crowded, with much of the meter band reserved for ham radio and all, but it's definitely worth a try. So we will definitely tell our technical team. So thank you very much for your suggestion and your report, Nick.
Yeah, thank you for that, Nick. He also wrote in an earlier email, I have listened to the latest Listeners Lounge and was touched by the lovely gestures of love and support to presenter Emily Jennings. Emily has done a fine job for KBS World Radio over the past couple of years and fully deserves the comments that have been made. I wish her all the very best for the future and trust that you can find another native English speaker. I think they have now, as they seem to project Korea in a different way to native Koreans, because, of course, we're looking in as foreigners. Therefore, the likes of Bruce Harrison and Mark Broom can see your country differently, and thus can explain to the listener the differences, such as how to live in the 6th most expensive capital city in the world. Wow, is it really the 6th?
Yes, it is.
Well, okay. It would be nice if Emily is allowed to come back on the station when she returns to Korea to update us all on how much she misses your wonderful country and its customs, among other things. Wow, okay, so it seems like I have some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah, pretty shoes too.
Right.
Well, you'll do just fine, I'm sure. And Nick, we have delivered your message to Emily, and she might even be listening right now as we speak. And just like you, we're looking forward to a possible special show when Emily comes back for a visit.
Moving on to another frequency, listener John Ross of the Philippines left us an online reception report on April 2nd. After tuning in to us on 9.640 megahertz from 1640 to 1700 hours UTC. John used a Tescan R9012 receiver with a telescopic antenna clipped with 20-meter wire connected outside, and he rated the SINPO 54554, which is very good. He also commented, great reception from KBS World on a small analog receiver. As I'm writing, I'm listening to the Listeners Lounge. Very good, which includes a report on frequency changes, a story about an announcer leaving KBS, and reception reports from your Indian audience. Thank you very much for your report, John.
Listener Tim Buriel of Malaysia also sent us reception reports on 9.640 megahertz earlier this month, once via email and again through our online reception board. He used a Texan S2000 receiver with a quarter-wave aerial antenna vertically erected to a height of 13 meters and first tuned into the frequency from 1410 until 1445 hours UTC and rated the SINPO 54544. He listened to us again on 9.640 megahertz from 1640 to 1700 hours UTC on the very same day, and at that time the SINPO stood at 55545, which is excellent. So thank you very much for your reports, Tim.
Next up, we have a report from our US monitor, Russell Summers, who writes on our online reception board regularly. Most recently, he listened to KBS World Radio on April 8th and 10th on 15.575 megahertz from 1300 to 1400 hours UTC. He used a Yachtboy YB400PE receiver with a telescopic antenna, and the SINPO stood at 25552 on both days. Thank you very much for your reports, Russell.
Listener Pramod Kumbla of India left us an online reception report on April 8th after listening to us on 9.880 megahertz from 1500 to 1530 hours UTC. He used a Texan PL660 receiver with a telescopic built-in antenna and rated the SINPO 4 across the board, which was a rather pleasant surprise. Most of our listeners have said that the 9.880 megahertz broadcast is good for listening from 1400 to 1500 hours UTC, but there's some heavy interferences starting at 1500 hours UTC. So thank you very much for that good news. And also, I believe it is the first time we're hearing from you. So welcome to KBS Listeners Lounge, Pramod.
Welcome. Case in point, listener Ramu M of India sent us a reception report via email on April 10th after listening to us on 9.880 megahertz at 1419 hours UTC. He wrote, hi there, I had a chance to listen to your broadcast toward India in the 9.880 megahertz. It was a surprise to hear the broadcast so clearly. Thank you for your technical team for locating the sweet spot on the dial. The frequency of 9.880 megahertz is more comfortable to listen to. But after 1500 UTC, the broadcast is not at all audible due to the strong interference from Radio China International. I rate the broadcast from 1400 to 1500 hours UTC falls across the board. I am using a Texan PL660 with 15-meter long wire outside as an antenna. Thank you for the nice program. It is interesting and informative as always.
Well, as one of the programs he listened to on the day was an episode of Business Watch focusing on online-only banks, Ramu also commented, online banking is a great success in India. Utility value was felt during the demonetization of higher-valued currency notes. In India, all banks are encouraging customers to use online banking, ATMs, and mobile banking to reduce the need for customers to visit banks. Now, that's very interesting. It looks like India is leaps ahead of South Korea when it comes to the banking system. Well, thank you very much for that information, which we would not have known otherwise. And, of course, thank you for your recession report, Ramu. Anyway, that's all the time we have for the letters, emails, and recession reports from you today. We'll be sure to send out the corresponding QSL cards to everyone who requested them.
We do apologize that we cannot share every single letter and report from you on the show due to time constraints. But just because it's not mentioned on the program, it doesn't mean your letters and reports are any less valuable than the ones that we do mention on air. Please know that we appreciate every single report, message, comment, and any form of feedback from you. Thank you, everyone, as always, for keeping in touch with us.
That's right. The information you provide to us is very important, and we rely on you to keep tabs on how our broadcast is being received in your part of the world. So please do keep those recession reports coming.
That's all we have time for you for this week on KBS Listeners Lounge. We hope you enjoyed the show. This has been Lawrence Taylor.
And this has been Kim Ji-in. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hello everyone, welcome to the quarterly quiz of KBS World Radio. Every 3 months, we give you, the listeners, a couple of quiz questions. Here are 2 questions for April, May, and June of 2017. Number 1. What is the name of the South Korean actor who won the Silver Bear for Best Actress in the 67th Berlin International Film Festival for her performance in the movie On the Beach at Night Alone? A. Kang Soo-yeon. B. Kim Min-hee. C. Chun Do-yeon. D. Moon So-ri. And number 2. KBS World Radio launched a new program in March which introduces hidden places to visit around Korea. What is the name of the program? A. The Korea Travelogue. B. Talk Korea Right Now. C. I Like Friday. D. KBS Listeners Lounge. If you know the answers, email them to us at english@kbs.co.kr, or you can mail them to KBS World Radio, KBS, Seoul, Republic of Korea. Please enter the competition before the end of June. For more information, visit our website at world.kbs.co.kr. We'll pick out a number of participants with correct answers and send them nice gifts.
Thank you for tuning in to KBS World Radio. KBS World Radio is Korea's flagship international broadcaster, airing in 11 different languages. The English service of KBS World Radio broadcasts 2 hours a day for various media outlets, including shortwave radio, satellite radio, and internet. Visit our website at world.kbs.co.kr, where you can stream all of our content on our internet radio Wink by tuning into various channels like Wink 24 and Wink Music. Wink is also available on mobile if you download our on-air app onto your mobile phone. Visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/EnglishKBS or follow us on Twitter at KBS World Radio.